Hi folks, I'm the Bald Guy, and these are Bald Guy Basics. I'm still kind of recovering from my surgery, and what that means is I'm staying away from anything that has much particulate to it. A couple of weeks before my surgery, a guy gave me an old non-functioning shotgun, and I've showed you, I think, I'm looking for it now. I've showed you, I've not worked on it yet, the stock here, and it's literally in pieces. I can pull these big cracks open. You can see how bad it is broken here. But before I went to surgery, I worked on the barrel. I'm going to put some still shots that I took of the barrel. It literally was one of the worst looking shotguns I've ever seen. He was keeping it outside in a pretty loose storage shed out there, and it was not a tight shed, and it had been out there for years. And you can tell by these still shots that the thing was corroded horribly. But I want you to see what I've been able to do. I'm going to get as close as I can here. And all of this was corroded. You see where the barrel band was, where the forearm had covered here is pretty good looking stuff with some bluing left. But everything else was not just surface rust. It's rust that was pitted. Now from here out, the barrel is now smooth again. In a couple of spots where the pitting was at its worst, I can barely feel them. And I didn't do as much work right up here in where it joins the receiver. But I want to tell you, if you can take a barrel that looked like the one I showed you in those pictures. Here, I'll show you another picture of it. And you can bring it back to this condition I didn't buy any tools. I didn't buy any equipment. I simply took a two-step process. I'm not really prepared here. But the first thing I did, I got me some steel wool, and I put some lubricant, some just basic oil. I found my little oil gun around here and put some oil on it. I also used some WD-40 or the Harbor Freight version of that. I've got a can of that stuff around here too. And I just washed the as much of the surface debris and oxidation and crud off of the barrel as I could. Then I scrubbed it with my steel wool. I'm still not thinking straight. The second thing I did, I took my WD-40 and I curled up my sandpaper. This particular sandpaper is 400 grit. I had some 250 or 60 or 240 grit that I started with, but I just poured some WD-40 on here, or sprayed it, and curled it around the barrel and slid it around. That's what came off the barrel. So yes, I have removed a slight bit of bluing. I'll take that any day of the week, considering where we started from this on this particular project. So I wanted to make a video this week, and I'm still splinted on the septum of my nose, and that's keeping me pretty sensitive. So I don't want to generate any real particulate. I didn't mind doing this because it was a wet sand. I did this yesterday and a little bit this morning. I would have to probably remove the bead, the front sight, to get it the way I would want it right here at the front of the barrel. But I am stunned. I've never had one this bad before, and I'm stunned at just how effective it is. So use a high grit sandpaper. Use your steel wool, and in fact, this is some of my favorite stuff in the world. I don't know what you call this other than it's a stainless steel mesh scrubber. Sometimes you'll find these at hardware stores. I have seen this at times in the grocery store because you can use it on your cast iron frying pans. No soap or anything in it. When you scrub with this, the barrel will remain brown. I use the WD-40. I don't want to abrade the metal, but that's a good place to start because it loosens things up. Then you can go with this, but I found the sandpaper to be by far the most effective of the things I did. And in fact, I went back after each attempt, I would just stand here and rub my hands over it and feel for places where the pitting was still, I could still sense it with my fingers. Then I go back over that section again. So and if you look back here, the receiver is still, there's a lot of corrosion, and inside this thing is really bad. I've got an acquaintance who is who does some gunsmithing. He is a licensed gunsmith, so he could actually work on reassembling this thing. There are some parts that were missing that makes it unfireable. In fact, when I took the bolt out, some pieces of the bolt just fell out in my hand and are broken. So excuse me, I'm not going to be able to fix it, and don't really need to, but I'm enjoying just working the metal. So if anyone else was to tell you, and I don't want to say I'm the expert, because I'm not. I've told you, this is the first time I've done this one. But if anyone else had told me, hey, you've got a gun, sandpaper it, I would have told them you're crazy. But if you're using a high grit sandpaper with some form of, you can try a water sand, but I really did it like the WD-40 style lubricant, because it both serves as a cleansing agent as well as a mild lubricant. And I just kept using this paper. If you see there's a hole in it, that's where that front bead caught me. But I simply wrapped it all the way around. I'm not gonna, here, we'll use a towel so I don't get the stuff back on here, and just stood here and slowly rotated the barrel and worked this thing until it got smooth. Especially right in here, you can see some silvery color in the metal, and yeah, that will require some bluing. So one of the things I anticipate doing with this, just for the experience and for the education of it, we will clean this down and get all of the oil off of it, and I'll take this upstairs and actually put it in the oven. And once we've done that and heated it, I'll heat it to 200 to 225, maybe 230 or 40, but just barely above the boiling point of water. And by the time I bring it back down here and set it up, it's still going to be plenty warm, but it'll be below that boiling point. It'll drop down pretty quickly. And then I'll put some cold blue on it, which is really interesting to me, that the best way to put cold blue on is to heat your metal, and show you the results that you can get. Now, the one thing I'll point out to you, and I'm going to do it probably the wrong way on purpose. You see these areas that were covered all those years, where the barrel bands were, and the form, the way this thing set in here, and there's a magazine tube that went under here that guarded a lot of this as well. I'm probably going to leave, rough section, raw section, rough but not as rough, raw, and then it's cleaned up the most. And then what I'm saying, it's inconsistent, old bluing and then raw metal, and I'll blue it to see how that works. And then we might actually go back and sand this thing completely down. And it's not going to look great because I'm doing it by hand. I don't know all the tricks of the trade, but I'm learning. But I want you to see how you can take, especially something that has some sentimental value to you, and actually do a pretty good job of restoring it. In fact, if I were to put this, of course there was a barrel band that went here, and then the magazine band went there. But for what it is, I've made this gun far more presentable, and it's far better. It's easier to preserve it from this state, and to stop the decay from going any further. While I've got you here, I am quite amazed at how clean the bore is from the receiver forward. The biggest part of, and it's not terrible, I've run some cleaning rags through this, but where the loading gate is here, that was a bit dirty, and a lot of corrosion in here where the bolt opened. But you can do some work. The finer the grit, the less actual finish you'll take off your gun. I might have done better to start with the sandpaper and then ended up with the ultra fine steel wool here. But when a gun was this bad and the metal is this corroded, I don't think there is one way. You just got to get this stuff off. So between each stage, I would use one of my old cleaning rags here. I used a lot of paper towels. Paper towels have the advantage: you use them, you throw them away, and you know, when you're using an old rag, you'll use it and then you'll use it again and again, and you pick up the corrosive, the dirt and the stuff, and it stays in your rag. So I actually do like using the paper towels. But stay tuned, and as my health arrives or improves, and my stamina has been a real issue, so you know, all your well wishes for stamina would be appreciated. I can get up and get out and say, man, I feel good in the morning, and a couple hours later I'm like, oh man, I got to sit down. But I'm really pleased, and those steel pictures, I'll pop them in one more time here and let you see. Just this thing was filthy. It felt like 00 sandpaper. That's how corroded the barrel was, and it is retrievable. It is redeemable, I guess. It can be fixed. So keep those in mind, and we'll see you on the next video. I'm the Bald Guy. Have a good day. Remember to subscribe, hit the notification button, share these videos. We'll see you on the next round.